What's up, guys? It is Corbin Stuckey of PixelTalk here. I am joined by my friend Michael Walker yet again. He is in my area. We have actually been incredibly busy for the past 2 weeks and been meaning to do a review of The Joker, but we've just been so busy. We're actually staying in this Airbnb right now, looking for an apartment for the near future. That's why we haven't been able to make videos. And we finally saw The Joker. I saw it first, and he saw it a couple days afterwards, and we're just now doing a review on it. So, yeah. We're going to first talk about the movie, non-spoilers, so that's what we're going to do for the next couple of minutes, and then we're going to go into spoilers. But don't worry, when we go into spoilers, we're going to let you know when we do that, because this is the type of movie where you really just can't talk about without going into spoilers, so let's go ahead and get started. Michael, what'd you think of The Joker, brah?
Dude, well, it was such a dope rendition of The Joker. I really didn't see that coming from Joaquin Phoenix. His name has to be said like that, right? Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen many performances by Joaquin.
He was good in Her. Like, that's what really caught my attention.
Oh my
in this
god,
movie.
it's the same guy?
Yeah, we got Netflix pull up right now. That's him. That's Joaquin Phoenix.
That's crazy.
It's really, like, hard to... Because he's wearing the mustache in the film.
Yeah.
But, no. So I was really excited for this film specifically because Todd Phillips directed it, and he is the director of The Hangover, which is, like, one of my favorite comedies of all time. And I quote that movie all the time. Like, it's just like one of the greatest films ever made in terms of comedy. And I think he's a really good director. And you can obviously see, like, from his work that he has been trying to go from comedy to a little bit more serious stuff. You can even see that within the other Hangover films, where, like, Hangover 2 and Hangover 3 were trying to get a little bit more serious, which there was a little bit of controversy with that because the first Hangover was just hilarious, and then especially the third one was more of, like, this serious, like, crime drama, which there was still humor in there, but you can kind of see, especially with other films that he's done, like War Dogs, he's trying to do more serious stuff, and I think for a director who is trying to do a little bit more serious stuff but has, like, a lot more experience with comedy or the idea of comedy, I think Joker is a really good thing for him to tackle, and this is actually probably, like, one of his best films out there. If he's known for The Hangover, like, before this, like, he's gonna be known as the guy who directed Joker, because this is a film. Like, a lot of people are saying this online, and I'm aware of the meme. Like, there's a meme that's, like, being dropped on Twitter.
What is up, you guys? I just saw Joker. Wow. Very disturbing movie. I mean, that is a film. You know what I mean?
But what I really appreciate about this film specifically is, like, effort. That's what I really thought of when watching this. It's like they actually cared. There's barely any CGI in this whatsoever. Arguably, probably not any. Probably just for exterior shots, like when they're showing Gotham and everything. But there's really none in terms of, like, CGI characters or anything.
Right.
A lot of it's practical, like when, you know, violence is involved, guns and everything. But overall, there's really not that much CGI, and it's all kind of dependent on the cinematography here. Yeah. You being a director of photography, like, you must have really appreciated this.
Oh my god, like, that's one of the first things. I mean, when the movie first came out, I follow a bunch of pages. They do, you know, color palettes and, you know, screenshot breakdowns and stuff like that of films, and there was just so many screen grabs I was seeing from Joker that made it look so stunning, and there was multiple times throughout the film where I was like, oh, this shot is just amazing, and I love how long they took some of the shots, that it really let certain things shine, and you are looking from the perspectives in this movie, and you're never like, okay, well, that was just like a filler shot. That was just coverage. Yeah. You were always, there was a purpose for, like, each one of the shots that you saw.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think was good.
I also just thought the movie overall looked good. It takes place in the 80s, so I think for this specifically, they might have used film. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like the kind of film that they would have used film for. I'm going to have to really look into that. But the movie overall, even if they didn't use film or if they just use, like, you know, modern day digital cameras, it looks great. It actually kind of feels like an 80s movie. I feel as though the cinematography, like I love the bokeh in the background because they're in Gotham and they're like in the city exterior nightlife, and very very similar because we watched this film like about a week before Joker came out. Taxi Driver. Now I think that might be a negative for some people that this is very very similar to Taxi Driver. It even has like some of the like themes from Taxi Driver. It looks like Taxi Driver, but I think it's more of like a nice homage to that film, like a modern day Taxi Driver. There are like differences, which I really appreciated. Like it's kind of, you know, dealing with the Joker aspect, and I feel as though it has a lot of, you know, good balance in terms of that. It's not necessarily trying to remake the film Taxi Driver, but trying to like pay tribute and respect to it.
Right.
But it's definitely there. Like if you watch Taxi Driver and if you watch Joker, it's like, okay, this is obviously, you know, taking note from that Martin Scorsese film.
Right.
But yeah, no, I really just enjoyed it overall. And Joaquin Phoenix, we have to talk about him.
But Joaquin Phoenix did a great job.
Yeah, well, I'm a sucker for a character that's an anti-hero, because he's clearly, you know,
he's not really an anti-hero, but he's the hero of his own story.
Right. So
yeah.
Him being the protagonist, but him doing bad things, I think is where I'm pulling that from. But the thing to take away is that you don't just hate the protagonist. You actually like feel for him, and there's circumstances that he's in this film where you feel bad, but it doesn't take away from what ends up happening and yada yada yada.
Yeah,
I will get into it more in like the spoiler section.
There's definitely things that he does in this film where you do feel bad for him, but a lot of the stuff that like he does is really unforgivable, and there's definitely like a level of morality that he loses throughout the film. But you do understand due to like how you figure out like what happens to the character and his background and his like setting. In terms of like his performance, it is gripping. Like basically, it's so hard to look at Joaquin in this movie. Like I want to stop looking at him because like I'm afraid of what he's going to do next. It's so, but at the same time, it's so mesmerizing. It's so hypnotic. Like you know something bad is about to happen. But then as you're watching it, it's like you cannot take your eyes off him because you need to be aware of what is going on and you need to like just know what this guy's about to do. There's a lot of stuff also where, because essentially this movie is, you know, the origins of the Joker, where we explore this character Arthur, and I liked what they did with this. He's essentially like this really cringy dude. Like a lot of the stuff that he does in this, and we're going to go into spoilers later on, it is so cringy. It makes you cringe. Like, oh my god, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he said that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's what they were going for, though. It's not, like, presented in this way where, like, it's unintentional. It's like, that is what they're going for, is, like, this character who is just so misunderstood or is trying to do something, is trying to convey, like, his sense of humor, but he's just so looked down upon. And that's one of the things that I really thought was interesting.
Right.
Because Todd Phillips has stated this in an interview. He feels as though he can't make the comedies that he wants to make anymore. Like he would not be able to make The Hangover in this day and age because people are so offended by certain comedic aspects in, you know, the world. Like Dave Chappelle, like, you know, that received a lot of like criticism. Yeah, critical stuff.
Like critics weren't liking it, but audiences,
yeah,
me included. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen Dave
Yeah,
Chappelle.
It was funny as hell. So.
Yeah, and I think that's what the film is trying to convey, is that there are different aspects of comedy and like it's subjective and everything, and that's, I think that comes from like Todd Phillips and how he is stating like, oh, I would be able to make another Hangover film because that humor is so dated now. I think that's what he's trying to say in this, and
But at the same token, he pushes the boundaries of what
he does.
You would think would be acceptable in a film. Now it's rated R, so he clearly, you know, you can push the boundaries in a rated R movie.
Of course, yeah.
But there's some things that will genuinely surprise even a person that's been watching rated R movies for years and years. You know, like me, like him. You know, we're in our 20s now, And I'd say I was genuinely taken away by some of the things that they decided to
There,
go forward with.
Yeah, there's a lot of disturbing stuff that happens within this film specifically, and it's because we're dealing with someone or a character that has a lot of mental issues, and there's a lot of stuff that, you know what, honestly, we're gonna have to go into spoilers, because a lot of the stuff that, like, happens spoilers! Okay, so basically the character Arthur, who becomes the Joker, we see throughout the film that he is just a very disturbed individual. He's a guy that basically suffers from
Pathological,
like
laughter.
mental. Yeah, so he laughs uncontrollably to things that aren't genuinely funny, or he just laughs and he can't control it. And this causes a lot of like frustration between him and others. He's not able to communicate properly with others, and he's very misunderstood. There's the famous scene from the trailers where he's like being judged by the woman and her son, and I love how like they explained what his issue was. Like, he just gives her the card and it just explains on the bat like, oh, I have this issue.
I have a condition. And then they never use that again. Never is able to pull out the card. He always just gets his ass kicked before that happens.
Like, but I thought that was just like such a, I don't want to say creative way, but a simple yet effective way of explaining like what is wrong with this dude.
Right.
There's a lot of scenes in this also where there are shots that really take their time, like when he's in the therapist's office and he's just kind of like laughing and the camera is panning out. I'm like, that's when I realized like, okay, this film is taking its time with what it's trying to convey and everything. And there's just like a lot of things that I really appreciated about it, where it's just like, it's trying to showcase, I guess through imagery, like how unsettling this guy is, and you don't really know what he's thinking of, but like, yeah, there's just so much things that we really need to get into in terms of the spoilers, but like, I feel, go ahead.
Okay, so, like you were saying, I mean, this is a film.
That is a film.
It's not one of those quick cut action set pieces. There's hardly any action in the movie. It's more of just shocking moments that happen besides action. You know, for instance, the thing that I think was the point of no return for this character was after he receives a gun from one of his old coworkers, because he works as a clown, like a clown for hire for parties or whatever.
So he's assaulted by like these kids, and his coworker's like, you know what, I gotta get you a gun. Like, you know, that's,
right.
Yeah, and then, you know, there's the subway scene where the guys from Wayne Enterprise,
right,
and they assault him pretty much, and like that was like a scene where I'm just like, whoa, like, and I love how like when they're in the subway, like the lights flicker on and off, and it's just like it's hard to tell, but like you see flashes of like blood everywhere. I'm like, oh my god, like this is crazy, and you know, you kind of feel for him still, even though he's basically murdering these guys. But it's stuff like that that happens throughout the film, where society is pretty much like really, really not on his side, and then he takes a step forward, and you kind of see him throughout the film gaining some kind of confidence because of this crime that he does. He essentially like is creating a cult, like unintentionally.
Like, it's kind of like it begins a movement by him doing that. It kind of starts a movement with all these people that are also unhappy with how society has been treating them, or with their jobs, or whatever the case may be, and they start wearing these clown masks. They start kind of idolizing this figure that killed these douchebags on the subway. And so I think that gives him a big level of confidence, and he even says that to his therapist, where he's like, people are starting to notice me.
Right. And I think it's also, because this film has like a very broad spectrum of what it actually is about, but like once the plot thickens, you start to realize that this is like a story about a guy trying to find himself, because we find out later in the film that like his mother, who is mentally ill, who doesn't go out a lot, and he takes care of, like that's pretty much like a large portion of his life is taking care of his mother. You find out that she had, I guess, an affair with Thomas Wayne. And
supposedly.
Yes, and there's like a possibility that he is Thomas Wayne's son. But then as the story progresses and you start to realize like, okay, maybe this is like a little bit different than we think, where the mom just wanted to get with Thomas Wayne and made up this story and just adopted this kid just to make it a truth. it starts to get a little bit like, okay, yeah, you understand a little bit more why he is the way that he is,
Yeah.
because he went through abuse and things of that nature.
Yeah.
This is a DC film, but I mean, arguably, it doesn't have to be. This could be just like a story about like a mentally ill guy, but the Gotham stuff isn't really necessarily shoved down your faces. It's more just like background to it,
Right.
like to the story. And I thought that was really interesting, just to kind of like think of like the Joker being like Batman's half brother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
was
was
almost like a really weird twist that could have been a thing.
But then they decided to like go about like, oh, okay, like we're just giving him more of a reason to become the Joker than not necessarily like making this true. It's really cool how they kind of like keep you guessing, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's why they added that back there, just to give him more depth. But yeah, no, it was super interesting just to kind of have you guessing throughout the film, because maybe he actually did have an affair with his mother. Maybe it's actually just the mother like crazy. I think,
or maybe it was all made up because
Yeah.
Arthur's not on his meds anymore.
Yeah.
So, and you do find that out that he has been imagining certain things in the story.
I want to talk about that. Yes. So, I mean, yeah, I it is possible. Like anything is possible. I think the mother made up all this stuff. But let's talk about the stuff that he's envisioning. I knew for a fact that there was no way that girl was there. I just knew, because there's no way that guy could get with that girl. Like, there's no way you could just walk into that girl's apartment and start kissing her. There's no way that she would even see you after like making this cringy performance like on stage. There's no way, absolutely no way. So that is kind of like one of the negatives that I had with the film, is that it is predictable that the girl that he is seeing is actually not there. But it does add on to the character that like he is so lonely that he has to make up this persona of this person that he knows, and kind of creates this like imaginary girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah. Now, like I said, it is the negative where like I saw it coming, but it does add on to the character and the story.
I'll be fair and say that I didn't.
You didn't see it coming.
I didn't see it coming. Maybe it was, one of those things that, I mean, I've seen fucking rom-coms and just regular comedies and all these different movies where it is kind of just like some dopey dude.
Yeah.
And you can see it in real life where it's, dudes that have issues with girls that don't, or girls with issues with guys that don't.
Yeah.
People have that kind of sympathy and empathy towards each other. So I was kind of feeling like, oh, well, that's kind of like a nice thing for him to have, because this whole movie was just him getting kicked in the dick over and over and over. So I was like, oh, okay, something nice is happening. But then because here's where my brain was at.
Okay.
I was thinking that she was going to break up with him or die or move out of town, or something was going to happen where they would end up splitting up, and that would set him off.
Okay, yeah.
I wasn't thinking that, oh, he's just imagining it.
Yeah. But I mean, like whenever you figured that out, how was that for you? Like, how did that was it like actually like a, because it kind of reminded me of like that to some people. It didn't like really affect me, but I could see some people looking at that as like M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense, where you find out that a character is not really there or present. Right. Did you have like that kind of mindset? Because I'm trying to figure out like, because for someone who was actually genuinely surprised.
If we're setting the scene, Arthur comes back and he had just murdered his mom.
Yeah.
And he was walking back in the rain, and he walks into her apartment, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, you're not gonna knock or anything. Walks into her apartment and sits on the couch and is just like sitting there, and he's all looking creepy with like his hair in his face. And
was it actually like right after he murdered his mom, or was the mom after that? I think it's just like when his mom's in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So but like he's having a bad day.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's having a bad day, and he goes back and he's sitting on her couch, and he's like got his hair on his face, and he's all just dripping wet, and she walks out and says, and she like freaks out, of course.
Like, do you need me to call your mom?
Yeah.
Like,
your name's Arthur, right? You live down the hall. You need me to call your mom to come and get you? And it's like, wait, what? You were hanging out.
Yeah.
You know him. And then
I was like, okay.
And then he like looks at her, and he does the little thing where he holds his fingers up to his head like a gun and does this. And then when that happens, it goes through all these flashbacks of
and then she's not really there.
And she's not really there. So my jaw dropped, and my buddy Romel, who had already seen the movie, looks at me and just starts laughing because he's just like, "You."
I could see
fuck.
Romel doing that for sure. There's a lot of scenes like where he doesn't even say anything, like he just looks at a character, and you are so unsettled by like the way that he is looking at that character or the way his face is.
Yeah.
Like the one scene in the beginning where like he's talking with his boss and the boss is like, you need to return that sign, and the boss is giving him shit, and the camera just kind of dollies in and he's just like smiling like,
why would I steal a
like
sign?
there's like,
it's the subtext.
yeah,
it's the subtext.
like there's scenes like that where it's just like, I am so unsettled by like the way he is looking at this character.
And that just goes to show how skilled Joaquin is, because I mean, he's clearly a method actor. He transformed his entire body.
He did what Jared Leto tried to do.
Right.
Like, and I'm sorry to say that. I don't think Jared Leto did a bad job as a Joker. My thing is he wasn't in the movie enough for Suicide Squad, but Joaquin Phoenix did something so different here. He tapped into something so universal that it just was so out of this world. And I think that has to do with the fact that the way that they approach the movie is also so unsettling and unnerving, which I wanted to get into this part as well. There's a lot of disturbing shit that happens in this.
Very disturbing movie.
Oh,
the scene where he kills his mom and then the camera starts losing balance and almost kind of turns from like this simple wide shot to like a Dutch angle, and there's no music playing in the background.
No.
It seems like something out of like some kind of international indie film that you don't see within an American film nowadays.
Yeah, it was something that was very, just disturbing.
Very disturbing.
That's one of those things that you would not have seen coming even with the R rating.
Yeah.
It's like, especially setting up the character beforehand where, he was the caretaker and stuff like that. It was just shocking,
There's a lot of scenes in this where, and I say this a lot in a lot of reviews, where like I feel as though some scenes in movies are metaled down because they add like this very generic music to it, and a lot of the times I'm just like, you didn't even have to use music in that part. You could just like leave music out to like create this unsettling atmosphere, and that's what Joker did, and I really appreciated that about Joker, because they decided not to use music for a lot of the disturbing parts, like the scene where like the two past coworkers, including the little person, go into his apartment, and then he just stabs the guy with his. And there's no music.
Yeah.
Like, it's so unsettling, and the part, oh my god, after he kills the guy, and the little person just wants to leave, and he can't unlock the door, like, I know that's kind of funny to some people, but I almost couldn't breathe.
No,
like,
I thought that it was all a plan. I thought that he planned that and was locking it so that he wouldn't. And then, and here's a theory that I have. It's like, oh, well, since the little person, maybe they had filmed it both ways, of the little person not being able to get out and then him killing him because of that being his plan, or him letting him go, which he ends up letting him go in the movie.
When he like leaves the apartment, like I just had like this sigh of relief. I even said like, God.
I think that may have been too far, and that's why I think if they did film it the other way around, I think maybe in the editing room they looked at each other and they were like, maybe this is like where we draw the line.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wasn't on a set. I don't have those behind the scenes. But let me go back to the music real quick. You were talking about music. The Joker's score is so chilling and awesome. Yeah. Like, the whole slow cello, like, strings playing. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Like, I'm getting chills just talking about it. Because it's just so good. And every time it comes in, it's, like, even better. You hear little bits of it. And every single time that he becomes more and more unhinged, it's just awesome.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, like, really disturbing stuff for sure.
Very disturbing movie.
Just like the atmosphere of the movie, there is not a positive part. Oh my god. So like there's I feel like we should have talked about this in the beginning, but like the atmosphere of the movie is great, and there are parts in this where like my jaw just drops, and there's even parts where I'm just like like the part where he's at the children's hospital.
Oh my
And he drops the gun. I'm just like...
He played it off kind of well.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like, it dropped on the ground, he goes...
He's just like, oh. Like, and there's just like this pause. And it's just like, it's kind of funny, but it's just like, it's like, it makes you widen your eyes. You're just like, okay, like,
yeah.
It's stuff like that. And I have to talk about, like, my favorite part of this movie, or maybe not necessarily, like, my favorite part. It's really hard to, like, I'm going to say most memorable part, where he goes on the television show with Robert De Niro, and he kills him.
Kills Robert De Niro? It was like a huge monologue, which I bet Joaquin Phoenix went through that and nailed the entire thing in, like, each take. He would just go have a 5-minute take. Because he's sitting there, and it's like the coolest shot too. Because you start and they do this like really cool. I guess they dolly around him like this, and then it goes from looking at him on stage, and then you're looking in the perspective of him towards like the crowd.
Yeah.
And then when he's sitting down, he's like this, and the camera is like back behind where Robert De Niro would be sitting, kind of looking at him like over this shoulder view like this. But then the camera's straight on with everyone else. Yeah. So I think there's like some kind of symbolism to that too.
I like how they decided to not only like use actual like shots for this scene, but they also like they made it look like it was being filmed like on television. Like they actually used like broadcasting cameras, which it added like some realism to like the scene, like we were actually watching like maybe like a Jimmy Kimmel interview or something like that. And I really liked it as well, because when the event happens where Joker shoots Robert De Niro and they cut to like an actual like TV station camera, I think that's why that's the most unsettling and most disturbing part of the movie, is because of how real it looks. Because there's something about, I don't know if they changed like the frame rate of the camera, or maybe it's just like that's how it looks, like actual TV broadcast footage, and it looks like someone is actually shooting someone on TV.
Yeah.
The way that it looks is so real.
They just did that. All the action pieces where, well, not really action pieces, but any time where there was like a real gunshot and someone's getting shot, someone's getting stabbed or whatever, head beat against the wall, it all looked like so super real. And I think that was one of the best parts about this movie, is that it was super hyper realistic. It wasn't comic book crazy. Yeah. No like crazy explosions and actions and set pieces and stuff like that. It was just like a real story that you feel like could happen.
What did you think of the part of the film where they essentially recreate the death of the Waynes? You know, because that's been done so many times before.
Right. Well, from a personal take, this might be a hot take as well. It's going to be real quick. Yeah. I don't know, it kind of seemed almost like an afterthought. And I think that may have been, maybe the studios kind of, like, were pushing that, like, hey,
like we
still want to revamp Batman. So is there a way that with this Joker movie we can kind of fit that in there? And then Todd Phillips, being the genius, being like, oh, duh.
Let's just do, like, this scene.
Throw it in the climax. Yeah. And then it's kind of like a big thing that would ultimately lead to, oh, the Joker created Batman.
Yeah, like, I feel as though, even though that we had already seen it, like, so many times, like, in the past, I feel as though, like, within the realms of this movie, like, by itself, it is still justified, and it's still kind of needed in a sense, because of the way that the story is building up and the way that Thomas Wayne ties into it. Because essentially, like, he's pretty much the reason why, Thomas Wayne, he's pretty much the reason why the Joker kind of hates society. Going back to Taxi Driver.
That's a good point.
You know, he essentially hates society and the way that society views him and his humor and everything, and how society misunderstands him. And like in Taxi Driver, where, spoilers if you haven't seen Taxi Driver, because, you know, these movies are very similar, where he's trying to kill the senator, which is also like the symbolism of like political society.
Figure, yeah.
When he does this act, society basically breaks. You know, there's riots in the streets, and one of the, you know, rioters kills Thomas Wayne. So that is like symbolism of like, okay, society is going downhill in Gotham. Gotham is becoming like a place of crime. So I really like, because it's not just the fact that they recreated this almost needed scene in Gotham where we have the beginning of Batman. It actually is within the story, like kind of like this resolution for Joker. Like he is bringing down society.
Yeah.
So even though some people might have a problem with like it being recreated, it's still it's okay by itself. You know what I mean?
It fits really well because of, like you said, Thomas Wayne being that political figure, and he has a pretty big role in the entire movie. It's not like it's just like, oh, by the way, this is Thomas Wayne. No, like throughout the entire movie, you know, what's his name again? Arthur and his mom are having conversations, you know, about the politician, and Arthur's becoming more and more distasteful.
Why do you like
him.
Thomas Wayne so much?
Yeah.
And then it's like the story plays out. It's like, oh, this has depth.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was really interesting because, like, I don't know if you got this sense or not, but as the story progresses, like, you know, these characters that we've known throughout the Batman saga or storyline, like, you know, the Waynes and Alfred, you know, in a sense, I don't know if it's because we've been following Arthur throughout the story, but the way that they treat him, it's almost like you kind of get the feeling that the Waynes aren't really that good of people. Now, one could say, like, okay, they're, like, really reacting, like, normally to this guy. Like, he basically comes up to, like, their mansion and force smiles their kid.
Right.
So that's, like, a normal reaction for, like, get the hell off my property. But everybody's just so mean to, like, this guy with, like, mental illness and stuff. And it's, like, there's no sympathy with, like, Thomas Wayne or even Alfred. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it kind of creates like this thing where it's like maybe they weren't such like good people. I guess within the realm of the Joker. I don't know. What do you think about that? Did you have that kind of thought?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you know that because at one point Arthur confronts Thomas while he's at the theater, and that's when I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah,
I thought Arthur was going to kill Thomas.
Yeah, and he's still like sincere about it. He just wants answers.
Right, and he comes at him very calmly, and then Thomas is immediately to the insults.
Your mom was crazy.
His mom, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's so insulting.
Right, and you know, that's not how a normal person talks. So it's like definitely like you said, a lack of sympathy for just anybody. So it kind of is like this weird feeling that, you know what, fuck Thomas.
Yeah.
In the end of it, but I don't know. I mean, and I think that's good that they didn't go too deep into that, because then it would have almost made it to where, oh, well, we don't give a shit about Bruce either, eventually, because they're just a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was like I kind of wanted to see other people's like opinions on it, but like that is kind of like the afterthought that I had, where it's like they don't really care about how they present the Waynes in this. Like they just want to kind of showcase that like nobody really likes this guy. Like it. I don't know. What do you guys think in the comments below? Like I feel as though they reacted normal to a guy like this, but like. The lack of sympathy almost kind of makes the Waynes a little bit unlikable. Now, one could say that this is a different universe in terms of like the Gotham realm and stuff like that. So like this is pretty much like its own thing. Like they're not going to be probably making a sequel on this. I don't even think the new Batman movie coming out in 2021 is going to be even related to this. I think this is just its own thing. Now, I have no problem with this whatsoever. I don't think this needs to be turned into like a universe. I think this just needs to be like its own thing and remember like, okay, it happened. It did very well. It's a film. Don't touch this. Don't try to make this like a universe.
Right.
Like,
but also a thing to note is because of the Wayne scene at the end with the theater shooting, I think they've left the door open for that, and I think that was them. The studio playing it safe and saying, let's just have this in here. If this performs really well, then that scene's always there, and it's never going to be like, oh, well, the Batman just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. They have tied it to the past movie, and let's be honest, DCEU, they've had a really hard time getting it kicked up, getting it started, and rolling good. So I think any little opportunity they have to kickstart it, they're going to take.
I think now at this point, they're essentially, and this is so funny that I'm even talking about this, they're essentially creating 3 universes, DC. Like, where Marvel has 1 universe, DCEU has 3. So they have, like, the stuff that they've had so far with Justice League, you know, and Shazam. That's 1 universe. They have this Joker movie, which is, like, it's rated R universe, so that's a second universe. And then they have this new Batman movie coming out, which is, like, a younger Batman, which obviously has no connection with, like, Justice League whatsoever, because Jim Gordon is black. That's a 3rd universe. They've already stated that it has nothing to do with the Joker.
And that's not even including the TV series.
Yeah.
The TV
like
series
Gotham?
is Gotham, Flash.
Oh, those are not even related. Those are not related at all. Like, no, CW. Like, CW, I call that Power Rangers DC, where it's like so Power Rangers. But yeah, I mean, I like this movie a lot. I think it's one of the best films of this year. It's definitely going to be, it's being talked about a whole lot. Like, what is it? What is the news? Because I keep seeing like news outlets talking about this. What is the news saying about this?
Everyone's like just shaking their fists, or the news is shaking their fists, and the people are shaking their heads because it's like, oh, they're so dumb and disconnected.
Yeah.
The news, they keep reporting, oh well, some people are afraid that the Joker's gonna incite societal violence and riots.
You know what? Honestly,
and all this other
when I see the movie, when I went to my movie theater in Gulf Breeze, there was a cop there. So like, I wasn't surprised, and you know, I mean, maybe that is like the safest precaution.
There's cops at theaters a lot.
I think because I don't think it's necessarily they're there because the movie is promoting violence. It's a movie. But I think they are there essentially because of the incident that happened in 2012 with the Dark Knight Rises. Do you remember that in Colorado?
No, because here's the thing too: is you
don't think that's a good like argument? Like,
well, I think yes, what you're saying is true.
Yeah,
and that did happen, but correlation isn't causation, and cops are around the movie theaters to ensure no one's trying to just get right in the movie theater, no one's trying to steal. No one's trying to get into a movie that they can't watch. On big premiere nights, they have cops posted up.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. Just something about this particular night just seemed a little bit too obvious to me because they're usually just in their cars. You know what I mean? And there was this one cop who was inside the theater. And I think that genuinely had to do...
Oh, like inside?
Like inside the theater, yeah. I think it genuinely had something to do with the fact that there was an incident that happened in 2012. The guy was dressed up like the Joker. He had like the orange perm and everything. So I think I think it did have something to do with that. Now, this movie is just a movie. Honestly, I don't think it deserves any of the press that it's getting in terms of social commentary and violence. Like, I think it needs to be talked about, yes, because it's a good movie. But I don't think it needs to be talked about in the sense of this could start like crime and a movement. Like, no, that's silly.
Well, they're almost
like
calling out for. They're like,
it's like they want it to happen.
The news is like, oh, we've had a slow news week, please.
Yeah, they want it to actually happen. They want to prove themselves right, and that's a little bit disgusting to me. Like,
100%.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean,
fuck you, CNN.
So like I've been saying, and like how the whole internet has been saying, this is a film. I really appreciated the amount of effort that they've put into this, and screw it. Even though, like, you know, the media is talking about it in this kind of negative light, the movie is still being talked about. It's not like this happens a whole lot, where it's just like, movies nowadays are like the movie of the week, where like they happen, and it's like, okay, that was cool, and then they go to see the next movie. We're still talking about it, like, even though we just saw it last weekend, and I really appreciate that. And I would love to see more movies like this with this amount of effort. I love movies that have like this kind of cinematography and just like this message behind it. And I thought it was really cool how they were able to like mix in, you know, comic elements like into it. Like this, arguably, this did not have to be a DC film. This could have just been a movie about like a mentally ill person like going through things and having like a bad career in comedy. But I really liked how it like mixed into, you know, comic books.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was very, very nuanced, very ambitious for a director like Todd Phillips to take on something like this, especially with the track history of the DC movies.
Oh yeah.
You know, the cinematography was great, the music was great, the choices in the editing, you know, like you said, with the choice of not having music. You know, yeah, there's like these certain sequences where the Joker's stabbing a guy and then bashing his head in the wall. They could have easily put it like an action friggin' Jason Bourne fucking soundtrack in there, just boom, boom. You know what I mean? But they
like Christopher
didn't.
Nolan.
It's all right, and it's all sullen, just really quiet when it needs to be, and when it doesn't need to be, it's chilling, and it is cool when those moments can shine based on what's happening in that shock factor versus the other moments that shine based on those kind of boosts that they get from the music, from the cinematography, and stuff like that. Like, because there's certain scenes where the Joker's just doing this weird, like, interpretive dance.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. That's what I was saying. It's like it's so mesmerizing.
Right, but they're beautiful, and they have like this super awesome score to them, and the cinematography is awesome, and the lighting's really cool, and so it's like, whoa, it works.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree completely. Like, maybe they can do like their own thing where they like tackle like DC villains in like this kind of rated R aspect. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like if, like I don't want to like sit here and say like, oh, you guys should make more movies, because I feel as though what makes this film special is that it's like one of a kind, and they shouldn't really make a franchise out of this.
It's a dark horse.
Yeah. Dark Horse.
Dark Horse.
Was that like the comic brand?
No, it's like a.
Oh, was that a saying?
It's a figure of speech, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like the comic brand,
or
Dark
like
Horse.
Or like the Outlier. Those.
Oh.
Kind of like.
Oh.
Yeah.
See us, guys. That's our review of Joker. Comment down below what you guys thought of this film if you've seen it yet. Like this video, share it, and please subscribe to PixelTalk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, gaming content, and so on. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey.
I am Michael Walker.
And this is PixelTalk. Thank God.
Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.